Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive question that honestly haunts a lot of adventurous travelers out there. Is Pakistan actually safe? Now, if you look at standard travel advisories, you might genuinely think you're booking a ticket to a perpetual war zone. But today, we are going to dive into the data, the ground realities, and the boots-on-the-ground local perspective to see what's really happening beyond those scary headlines. We're exploring a totally fascinating local account by a creator named Fawad, who basically aims to dismantle this whole billion-dollar travel insurance narrative. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, we're going to jump in with a pretty bold challenge from our source material. Quote, "Stop watching the news. I mean it." This is exactly how Fawad confronts that decade-old fear-based narrative built by Western media headlines. Because think about it, for the last 10 years, the world has been sold a very specific story about Pakistan, right? Mountains filled with dangerous men, burning cities, literally a place where backpackers go to disappear. You get the CNN alerts, the level 3 travel advisories, the kidnapping warnings. But as our source accurately points out, the media cycle rarely updates its hard drive. The perception is just stuck in this weird time capsule that's entirely divorced from the reality on the ground today.
Now, to be totally fair, we absolutely have to acknowledge the past year. Fawad is super clear that Pakistan wasn't always just some peaceful picnic. During the War on Terror back in the 2000s, the country had very real, very severe security issues. We're talking military operations, actual conflict zones, and suicide bombs. The whole world looked at the region and, quite correctly at the time, saw a massive red zone. And it's really important to understand this history because it's exactly why the current travel stigma exists. But here's the catch. While the rest of the world was basically watching reruns of old conflict footage, Pakistan underwent this absolute tectonic shift.
Just look at how much things have changed since then. There's been a massive, and I mean massive, 300% spike in tourism. Between 2014 and today, the landscape shifted dramatically. Actually, by 2018, the British Backpacker Society ranked Pakistan as the #1 adventure travel destination in the world. Not most improved, literally #1. Security forces locked things down, and locals built incredible infrastructure, like these sweeping new highways cutting right through the Karakoram Mountains. As our source notes, today when you land at the beautifully modern Islamabad airport, your biggest threat is probably just jet lag, or, maybe an aggressive taxi driver overcharging you.
Let's actually look at the statistical reality of violence in the data, because this is wild. Pakistan has a murder rate of roughly 4 per 100,000 people. Now compare that to the United States at 6.3 and the UK at 1.2. Pakistan sits pretty comfortably right in the middle. Our source shares a fantastic perspective here. You are statistically more likely to face violent crime walking around downtown Chicago than you are walking the streets of Karachi. Danger is incredibly relative, isn't it? But well, the media loves a sensational story about danger in the region way more than a story about some local grandma in the Hunza Valley offering free chai to a passing tourist. And this completely reframes how we even think about risk. It builds a totally different paradigm of safety. In the West, safety is essentially a contract, right? You pay your taxes, the police protect you. It's this cold institutional efficiency. But in Pakistan, safety is a reflex. It's deeply cultural and deeply religious. You don't see police checkpoints every 5 feet in a bustling market of 500,000 people in Rawalpindi simply because the safety doesn't come from the state, it comes directly from the people themselves. So the really crucial point here is this concept called izzat, which translates to honor. In Pakistani culture, a tourist is viewed as a guest. If a foreigner is wronged, scammed, or robbed in a local neighborhood, the elders of that village feel a profound personal humiliation. It literally brings shame on their home. Because of this, the entire community basically becomes your ultimate safety network. They will hunt down a stolen phone for you, not because they're the police, but because their cultural honor absolutely demands that a guest remains protected.
Of course, nuance is totally essential here, and blind optimism is going to get you into trouble anywhere. There are absolutely explicit differences between the regions. For example, there are undeniable red zones. The border regions with Afghanistan and the interior of Baluchistan still carry very real risks and honestly should be avoided entirely unless you have armored security. But then, consider the green zones: Hunza, Skardu, Lahore, Islamabad. This makes up about 95% of the standard tourist trail, and according to the source, these areas are safer than downtown Paris. Seriously, in Paris you might get pickpocketed. In Lahore, if you drop your wallet, 5 people will probably chase you down just to return it.
Which naturally brings us to a really major question. What about solo female travelers? The source notes that while it might not always be easy, because let's be honest, you will undoubtedly get stares since you are a rare sight in some of these areas, aggressive harassment is actually surprisingly rare. Why?
Again, it's because of that intense social policing. If a local man steps out of line or stares a bit too long, older men in the community will quickly step right in and reprimand him. A scammer doesn't just risk the police, he risks the wrath of his own neighbors. So as long as basic cultural rules are followed, like dressing modestly, this deep-seated community policing creates a remarkably strong protective bubble.
Okay, so beyond crime, the real, tangible, physical danger in Pakistan, it actually lies in the mountain infrastructure. I'm talking about the roads. While China has helped build some incredible modern highways there, once you leave them, you are dealing with jeep tracks cut straight into sheer rock with absolutely no guardrails. The rules here are incredibly strict. Do not rent a car yourself unless you literally have nerves of steel. Always hire an experienced local driver and never ever drive these mountain passes at night. The good news though, even deep in the Himalayas, the 4G cell service is surprisingly fantastic, so if you do get a flat tire, help is really just a quick phone call away.
So this logically brings us to the actual day-to-day reality of the threats you might face on your trip. Forget the Hollywood action movie stuff, your biggest threats are way more mundane. First up, there's the classic best price scam in the bazaars. Shopkeepers are absolutely going to triple the price when they see a tourist, so you've always got to haggle down to at least 50%. Second, beware the overly friendly local who insists on buying you tea, only to drag you to his cousin's carpet shop where you'll just feel way too polite to say no. And finally, the most lethal threat for sure, the brutal summer heat in the Punjab region. It can easily hit 50 degrees Celsius, that's 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Hydration is your best friend. In fact, our host Fawad jokes that the only thing that actually tried to kill him during his travels was a massive heavy plate of butter chicken.
But listen, for every minor annoyance or, pushy carpet salesman, there are literally thousands of locals who just embody the ultimate welcome. The source shares this beautiful anecdote about dropping a wallet in Gilgit. A local kid found it and literally ran 2 kilometers chasing after a moving Jeep just to return it. And get this, when he was offered a cash reward, the kid's father was actually insulted. He declared that taking money from a guest is haram or forbidden. You simply cannot buy that kind of authentic hospitality. It's a genuine cultural embrace that completely redefines what it means to travel.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. We've seen the data, we've explored the incredible cultural safety nets, and we've mapped out the real, albeit pretty mundane threats. If Pakistan has truly transitioned from a no-go zone to a top global destination, who exactly is benefiting from keeping you afraid? Are the dangers of exploring this incredibly diverse country actually real today? Or is the monster just a lingering lie sold by a billion-dollar travel insurance industry to keep you booking safe, boring, predictable resorts? The true adventure, it seems, starts the absolute second you stop watching the news and start looking at the reality. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope it gave you a completely new perspective to think about.